What if humans once slept exactly the way chimpanzees still do today? Curled up in the branches, high above the danger below. Let that sink in. Nearly every great ape alive today builds a nest in the trees each night. Gorillas, orangutans, chimpanzees. Safe, elevated, out of reach from ground predators. So why did humans abandon this strategy completely? Why did an entire species choose to sleep on the ground? In a world filled with lions, hyenas, and other predators perfectly capable of killing them? The answer isn't simple. It's a story of trade-offs, body changes, and one crucial invention that changed everything. Think about this. Our closest ape relatives sleep in trees for one overwhelming reason: safety. A predator on the ground has a much harder time reaching a sleeping animal wrapped securely in branches 30 or more feet in the air. Let that sink in. For millions of years, this strategy worked extremely well for our ancestors too. Early human ancestors likely slept in trees, just like other great apes. So something significant must have changed. Number 1. Our bodies changed first. Think about this. As early humans evolved toward walking upright on 2 legs, their bodies gradually adapted away from climbing efficiency. Let that sink in. Modern humans lack a grasping big toe, unlike other primates. Our hips, our spine, our overall body proportions shifted to support long-distance walking and running, not climbing and balancing in branches. Think about this. The very same evolutionary changes that made humans excellent long-distance walkers made us significantly worse at climbing safely, especially while asleep and unaware. Let that sink in. A chimpanzee can fall asleep gripping a branch instinctively, even while unconscious. A human body, adapted for walking rather than climbing, lost much of that automatic secure grip. But wait, this creates an obvious problem. If humans became worse at tree climbing, but predators on the ground remained just as dangerous, how did early humans survive at all? Number 2. Body size became a factor too. Think about this. As human ancestors grew larger and heavier over evolutionary time, trees that once comfortably supported a smaller ancestor became increasingly risky. Let that sink in. A larger body sleeping in branches faces a higher risk of falling, and a much more dangerous impact if that fall happens. For a species already becoming less naturally suited to climbing, increased body weight made tree sleeping an even worse option. But wait, losing tree safety without another solution should have been a serious survival problem. Something else needed to replace it. Number 3. Fire. Let that sink in. This might be the single most important development in this entire story. Once early humans gained reliable control of fire, the ground suddenly became far less dangerous at night. Think about this. Most predators instinctively avoid fire and its smoke. A controlled flame maintained through the night created a protective barrier that trees alone never could. Let that sink in. Fire didn't just provide warmth. It became a replacement for the safety that height once provided. Ground level, combined with fire, offered something trees couldn't: space for an entire group to rest together, protected as one unit. But wait, fire alone wasn't a complete solution either. Number 4. Group vigilance. Think about this. Sleeping on the ground, even with fire, still carried real risk. So early humans developed another strategy entirely: taking turns staying awake. Let that sink in. While 1 or 2 group members slept deeply, others remained alert, watching, listening, feeding the fire when needed. This rotation meant the group as a whole was never completely unguarded, something a lone chimpanzee sleeping in a tree never needed to coordinate. Think about this. Trees provided passive safety. Fire and group vigilance provided active safety. A completely different survival strategy, built around cooperation rather than elevation. But wait, ground sleeping came with another surprising advantage. Number 5. Better sleep quality. Let that sink in. Sleeping upright, wedged into branches, gripping instinctively even while unconscious, isn't exactly restful. Researchers studying modern great apes have noted that tree sleeping, while safer from predators, may actually produce lower quality sleep compared to lying flat on a stable surface. Think about this. Ground sleeping, once made safe through fire and group protection, may have allowed early humans to enter deeper, more restorative sleep stages. Let that sink in. Better sleep meant better cognitive function, sharper memory, decision-making, and problem-solving during waking hours. This advantage may have compounded generation after generation. But wait, not every early human ancestor abandoned trees at the exact same time. But wait, there's a specific archaeological clue that supports this timeline. Think about this. Researchers have studied the inner ear structures of early human ancestors, specifically features related to balance and vestibular function. Let that sink in. Species still adapted to sleeping and moving in trees show inner ear structures optimized for balance during unstable, elevated movement. As certain early hominins shifted toward ground living, These same structures gradually changed as well. Think about this. Even something as small and internal as inner ear anatomy carries evidence of this massive shift in sleeping behavior. But wait, ground sleeping introduced an entirely new category of danger that trees never presented. Insects and parasites. Let that sink in. Sleeping at ground level exposed early humans to ticks, biting insects and burrowing parasites in a way that elevated tree nests largely avoided. Think about this. This created new pressure toward another behavior, regularly moving camp locations. Let that sink in. Staying in one exact spot for too long allowed parasites and waste to accumulate. Moving periodically, even short distances, helped reduce this risk significantly. Think about this. Trees didn't require this kind of active management. Ground living did. Another layer of behavioral adaptation required to make this new strategy work long-term. But wait, there's also a social dimension to this shift worth considering. Number 6. Ground sleeping strengthened social bonds. Let that sink in. A chimpanzee sleeping alone in its own nest experiences a degree of nightly isolation. Humans sleeping together on the ground surrounded by fire created constant physical closeness during vulnerable hours. Think about this. This closeness likely reinforced social bonds, trust and group cohesion in ways solitary tree nesting never could. Let that sink in. The very vulnerability of ground sleeping may have accidentally strengthened the social structures that made human survival possible in the first place. Think about this. Vulnerability, managed correctly through cooperation, became a source of strength rather than pure risk. But wait, not every early human ancestor abandoned trees at the exact same time. Number 7. A gradual transition, not a single decision. Think about this. Some early hominin species likely retained partial tree-sleeping behavior for a significant period. Evidence from bone structure in certain early human ancestors still shows physical traits suited for climbing, alongside emerging traits suited for walking upright. Let that sink in. This wasn't an overnight switch. It was a slow overlapping transition, as fire control became more reliable and body structure continued shifting away from climbing efficiency. Think about this. For a period of time, some early humans may have used both strategies. Trees when necessary, ground with fire when possible. But wait, eventually ground sleeping became the clear standard. Number 8. Shelter construction replaced height entirely. Let that sink in. As humans developed increasingly effective shelters, caves, and eventually constructed dwellings, the need for elevation as a safety mechanism disappeared almost completely. Think about this. A well-built shelter, reinforced with fire at its entrance, provided better protection than any tree ever could. Walls that blocked wind, fire that blocked predators, group presence that ensured constant vigilance. Let that sink in. Height was no longer the safest option available. Engineered safety had replaced natural safety entirely. Think about this. Even today, this shift left subtle traces behind. Humans still sometimes feel a strange, instinctive unease, waking up disoriented in complete darkness. A brief moment of confusion about where the ground is, where safety is. Let that sink in. Some researchers suggest this may be a faint echo of an ancestral past, when knowing exactly where solid, safe ground was located mattered immensely. So why didn't ancient humans sleep in trees, the way our closest primate relatives still do? Not because trees stopped being safe, but because the human body changed, becoming less suited to climbing and more suited to walking. Because increasing body size made falls more dangerous. Because fire offered a new form of protection trees never could. And because cooperation, in the form of group vigilance, replaced the need for physical elevation altogether. Think about this. Every other great ape alive today still climbs into the branches each night, following a strategy unchanged for millions of years. Humans took a different path entirely. Let that sink in. Trading the safety of height for the safety of fire, shelter, and each other. A trade that, against significant odds, ultimately worked.